All right, let's talk Daryl Dike a little bit. 3 goals in his last 4 games, Chuck. And 22 years old. Obviously, we talk about ceilings and potential. He's got a lot. He's got a lot of ceiling left. He's got tons of potential. It's more about consistency, I think, and obviously adding some tools to his game. Most notably, I would say his hold-up play, when to play backwards, when to maybe roll a guy, right? You got to make sure you're unpredictable in the type of decision-making that you're making and looking for those maybe quick combinations. We're seeing elements of that now playing for West Brom, which isn't which I don't think is an easy team. He's playing for Steve Bruce, who, having seen him coach for many, I don't think he's the coach that's going to like bring that into his game. So it's a little bit of Daryl bringing it, talking it to his teammates, getting that experience, and obviously playing in a league that's very difficult as well to like try to settle the ball and have like a, I don't no disrespect to the championship. I just think it's the most difficult league in the world. There's so much pressure, and they play so many games that I think it's hard sometimes for them to really settle down and have the identity they want. But that said, individually instead of the collective, I think Daryl Dike has really grown, especially since the beginning of the year. So I'm very excited to see him get in here. He's got 3 goals and 8 caps for the U.S. men's national team. Do you think he gets minutes, though? I mean, there's so many players.
Yes.
We talk about this roster, though, but we want to see these guys play. And that's what kind of got me going initially, was about Zach Steffen and Matt Turner. But there's other areas, too. I want to see Zendejas get some valuable minutes with the first team. I want to see Taylor Booth get some valuable minutes with the Gio Reynas and the Pulisic. So that, you know what I mean? You want to see these guys so we can actually evaluate them in a situation. Maybe Granada and El Salvador aren't the best opponents per se, but you still want to see them play with our best players.
Chris Phillips in the YouTube comment section. I wasn't going to address this from Slick on Top, this comment, but Daryl Dike could be the same as a Haaland. Come on, as I'm in Dominican Republic, so as I don't know if
you can compare Daryl Dike to Erling Haaland, especially after Erling Haaland scored 5 goals.
No,
against RB.
As they would say in the Dominican Republic, tranquilo. Chill.
Yeah. No, we can't overhype our players. We got to leave that. That was the Freddie Adu years. We're past that now.
Yeah, DK is
no more overhyping.
Is not Erling Haaland. But I will say, when I look at Daryl Dike, he has to play to his strengths. And right now, I think he knows what he's good at. He knows his ability, his ceiling. In terms of his first touch and his movement, I think his movement has been fantastic. He's only getting better. His first touch, that's going to be interesting to see. The pace of the game internationally is much quicker. Although when you're playing against the lower CONCACAF teams, that might be a way to get into it slower and find your feet and find your footing. So for me, yes, Daryl Dike should be called in just based on his form, because he is scorching hot right now and his ability. And we're lacking a striker who is very dominant with his hold-up play. So in terms of hold-up play, his runs, and his finishing, he's top-notch right now, and he can only get better. The weak parts of his game, being able to face up a defender 1v1, his first touch in tight spaces, when teams take away the ball where you come and check for your midfielders, what else can you do for your team? I think that's where we want to see him improve. And it's not that he can't improve. He just has to make that step. So I'm confident that Daryl Dike can do it because, like I said, I've seen him from college, and he was a ways away from being successful at MLS. There's a huge step, a lot of things he had to work on. He did that under Oscar Pereira. And then he did that again in the championship. And he's shown that he has the tools to be successful as a 9. So let's go, DK. I'm thrilled. I've always been supportive of him. So
I agree with you. What I find interesting now that I actually look a little bit harder at this roster graphic, Daryl Dike and Ricardo Pepi are the only strikers, like traditional strikers, in this camp. So I feel like they're probably both going to get some valuable minutes against opponents that will most likely drop into a low block and make it difficult for us. So I'm kind of curious to see who Anthony Hudson elects to start in either of the games, or if he goes with the same person. Ricardo Pepi has been very busy. I like his movement in the box right now, very similar to Daryl Dike. I think they're in good form. I'm a bit surprised that Josh Sargent is not in the team. He could have added another one, right? There's no roster restrictions on how many players you could have brought in. So maybe there was a bigger conversation. I have some questions of a few players. More defensive, and I guess Malik Tillman over not getting Alan Signora over Malik Tillman. But Taylor Booth, I like a lot. For everybody that doesn't know, he plays for Utrecht in the Eredivisie, which is the Dutch league, and Utrecht's offense runs through him. There have been some good articles that I've seen, some really hardcore analysis about how everything runs through Taylor Booth, and I like that he's getting that responsibility and then shining with that responsibility, so much so that Manchester United has shown some interest in him. And I think the strongest reason as to why is that Erik ten Hag, the coach of Manchester United, used to be the coach of Utrecht and has a very strong tie there. I believe he played at Utrecht as well. So his links to that club are very strong. They can have obviously open communication with him, and they're monitoring Taylor Booth. So I think that's very exciting, but hopefully not too much pressure. But I want to see him play. So I'm kind of curious when you see this. If we did a front three right now, I kind of want to see Taylor Booth. I don't know if he starts, but I want to see him play for sure. Ricardo Pepi and Daryl Dike, a little bit different in terms of their playing
but
styles.
they're both going to be they're both going to be nines. They're not going to be on the pitch at the same time.
No, they won't. You're right. They will not be on at the same time. So you have Booth on one side. Let's say you have Ricardo Pepi up top, Pulisic on the other side. I think you can slide in a Gio Reyna or a Brent. I'd put Gio over Brendan at this point underneath.
Yes. Agreed.
But then I feel bad because I'm looking at Timo Weah. Like, that guy was awesome for us in the World Cup, and he's getting valuable minutes playing multiple positions in Liga for his team in France, Lille. It's interesting what you do here because I think Timo Weah probably starts, and maybe Gio slides under if you wanted to start him, and Taylor Booth will probably be a second option, like Zendejas and DK. I think will probably be a second option to Pepi. But I wonder, and I think it's interesting that in our first real camp post World Cup, that Pepi would be our first starting number 9 in that game because we left him off the roster. I don't know how much we want to get into that side of things, but hopefully that whole experience makes him a better player, right? That's all you can ask for.
That's all you can hope for, is that he comes in just with that killer mentality. As a striker, your main goal is to score goals and to be one of those players who can bring in other players into the attack. So I would like to see someone playing underneath him as a 10. And then you could go with 2 strikers. That way you get more players who are comfortable with the ball at their feet. And so we're going to see a lot more combinations and players interchanging, which will make our attack more fluid. I like that idea. I don't know if Anthony Hudson is ready to implement those type of tactics and to run out a team like that. But this would be, if there's ever a time to put a team out there where you're saying, hey, we're going to keep the ball, we're going to dictate the tempo, we're going to be the creative ones on the front foot. This is where you could try the 3-5-2. And you could get creative with that 10 underneath 2 strikers, and the 2 strikers, one is DK or Pepi,
you could play a 3-5-1-1 though, right? You still have the single striker, but have that second striker. Doesn't have to be Pepi or DK. It could be a Pulisic or a Reyna, or because Reyna, I remember when Haaland was at Dortmund still, they would have Reyna sometimes floating underneath him, right? Just to be close to him, to look for those combination passes or to spring him in some way. It's just an option, but it doesn't have to be like a 3-5-2. 3-5-2. It could be a 3-5-1-1. Because I think we have a few players that can play that second striker option.
But the second striker you're still 2, as in he's higher up the pitch.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, it's like Josie and myself. Josie was more of a central striker, holding the ball up, and I was always making runs off of him. And so, you know, you could still find that type of partnership, but it might be some mixing and matching.